money. Let me go radio check.
Okay, I'm gonna drop my pack and go farther down the trail.
Alpha 6, Alpha 6, Alpha 1-3, radio check over. Alpha 6, Alpha 6.
Tex, I got a hole.
Alpha 1-3, radio check over. Hey, you better
Tex,
stay
I
out of
got
that.
a hole over here.
Stay out of it. Stay out. Let me call it in.
I got a tunnel.
Alpha 6, Alpha 1-3, radio check over.
This is full of VC stuff, man. This is Charlie stuff. Dude, they got magazine pouches, AK stuff.
Better stay out of there.
This is Charlie stuff, man.
Easy, stay out of there, man. I'm telling you.
Those
Alpha
villagers
6, I
knew
have you,
about
Lima
this.
Charlie.
They're hiding
Over.
this stuff, man.
What do you got?
They got rice. I got a freaking satchel with a
Don't be
with a
touching that shit, man.
grenade,
Hey, I'm calling it in right now.
water. I got
Alpha 6,
AK
Alpha 1-3, be
magazines.
advised, we have found
I got
enemy weapons
everything
cache
over
up here,
here.
over. Alpha 6, Alpha 1-3, did you copy my last, over?
Tex, look at this. We
I
got
told
rice,
you,
man.
Stay out of there, man.
That's enough rice to feed a platoon.
Stay out of that shit, Easy. Don't be messing with that shit.
Fuck that, man.
Alpha 6, Alpha 1-3. I say again, we have an enemy weapons cache up here, over. Roger,
This is
Alpha
the kind
6.
of stuff that gets people
Copy
killed,
all.
man.
Alpha 1-3 out. Hey, they want us to blow it in place.
Fire in the hole. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed that intro. I know me and Brent had a lot of fun filming it for you. Today we're going to look at the XM177E2. This is the carbine designed to replace the E1. This rifle was a favorite among SOG teams because it had the ability to mount a grenade launcher underneath it, and it was designed to replace the E1. Although in Vietnam, it never fully did that. There were plenty of E1s around and not a whole lot of these, and they were only made for a couple of years before the war started winding down and they canceled the contracts on the builds of these. These are particularly loved and overrepresented by US reenactors because they have a longer barrel. You can permanently attach a moderator to that longer barrel to reach an overall length of 16 inches and circumvent the tax stamp, which you need when building an XM177E1. So this can be $200 cheaper and no tax stamp or approval from the federal government to start off with. So what we're going to start doing is we're going to look at some different components of this rifle. It followed the same build lines as the M16A1, and we're going to look at some of those details. So just come with me. We'll check it out. So we thought we would talk about magazines and how they were carried real quick. You could see them used depending on what unit, what gear that particular unit was issued in many different ways. For something like MACV-SOG, those guys loved BAR belts. These have 6 pouches. They'll carry 3 magazines each. That's 18 magazines on your belt right there. The standard loadout for the average guy was about 22 mags, so you're already almost there just with the belt rig without having to carry anything else. Now, a lot of guys would carry more ammunition than that, some less, but these bar belts were just a favorite among SOG teams as well as Mike Force because they were available to those teams. You sometimes see grunts take a 20 or an SKS chest rig, and they'll put 20 round magazines in these pouches. And these will fit nice and tight, and they will hold 20 round magazines in here. That was another good way of using captured enemy equipment to carry your 20 round magazines. This is a very durable pouch and a very durable way of carrying them. A less durable way is to use the old bandoliers. These will also hold 20 round magazines. And it was very common to see these carried by infantry units and special teams alike. Multiple 7 20 round magazines in each pouch. So once you remove your ammunition out of this, which came in cardboard boxes, you just replace those with your magazines. It's not as durable of a carrier, but it was very, very common because they were available. Of course, we've got the universal pouch, which was really designed to hold different types of magazines. That's why it was known as a universal pouch. This would carry 5 20 round magazines, 4 in the pouch, 1 on top, and that one is very easy to access and use. It was replaced with a shorter magazine made out of canvas that also would hold 4 20 round magazines. That was then replaced with nylon gear, which this is a short magazine or magazine pouch designed to hold 20 round magazines. This didn't last very long because then 30 round magazines came out. These are basically the same magazines that we use today, and these would hold 3 30 round magazines each. By the time that this became popular, Vietnam was starting to wind down. One other thing to look at, very popular among LRP teams, SOG alike, was the old canteen pouch. You could just stack this full of magazines, button it up, and it was almost like a dump pouch, if you can imagine that. You could just take them out, you could put whatever you needed to in there, but these were really prized among LRP teams as well, and special teams, to just carry magazines or 40mm grenades. The good old canteen pouch just being repurposed. We mentioned a 30 round magazine before that. Sometimes you'll see 20 round magazines just taped together. So that gives you 40 rounds of ammunition with a quick reload right there on the firearm before you have to reach into your pouches and dig any other magazines out. Okay guys, let's look at slings real quick, because there were multiple different types of slings that could be used on these carbines. We're going to show you just a few of those. So to start off with, you've got your standard issue USGI cotton sling. These were very common. A lot of times that they would take this sling and they would run it through the front sight post and over the top of the stock so that the weapon would hang in position when worn across the body. You also had later on the nylon sling known as a seatbelt sling. This served the same purpose, it just didn't come about till later. You sometimes see these universal general purpose straps being used, and they could just clip on using paracord on the front side and on the stock, and you've got a wider sling. Something like paracord could even be used for just a sling. You see that pretty often. Paracord or smaller pieces of rope used to secure the weapon. You also see things like we have on my carbine, which is an SKS or AK sling, Chinese AK sling. I've just attached that to the front sight using a bit of paracord. And we just used a regular old leather keeper across the back of the stock there. And that's pretty rattle free on both ends. So that works out pretty well. So we're going to look at this build from the buttstock to the muzzle. I figured that'd be the easiest way to try not to forget anything, overlook anything. So this stock is aluminum. Both the E1 and E2 had aluminum stocks, not plastic, during the Vietnam War. This one was refinished with what they call vinyl acetate, which is a hard, shiny black material. Sort of reminds me of powder coat, if you think of what powder coat is like, if you're wanting to know what it sort of feels like. It has that hardness. It's on a 2-position receiver extension. Open or closed, just like the E1, that's all you had, 2 positions, open or closed. All the aluminum parts on this rifle were just like the E1, where they were anodized in dark gray, what we refer to today as XM gray. All the steel parts were parkerized, a gray parkerization. The bolt and carriers on these, if you'll notice, are parkerized also. We've gotten away from hard chroming, and now we're just parkerizing everything, bolt and carrier. This is the same bolt and carrier you really see on modern M16s and M4s today. These of course have the Vietnam era early port door. You can see it's got the small little pad there. It's designed to catch on your rib here on the lower. We've also got a full fence lower. Most all the E2s I've seen have a full fence lower. This is one of the improvements that came with the M16A1, and you're going to see it on this carbine also. If you'll notice, there's no markings on the right side of the lower receiver whatsoever. There's no fire or auto safe markings or any of that. Those didn't exist back then. They didn't put those on the right side. And you can see there's no tick on the selector. It's completely smooth. This CH mark, this is a Colt marking. This was post-Vietnam. So this upper was made after Vietnam. The Vietnam era CAR-15s, whether they were E1s or E2s, did not have any markings there. They were completely sterile. Let's look at the other side. This is obviously a reproduction made by Nodak Spud, the lower that is. And you can see we've had Colt markings added to that. It says property of U.S. government, XM177E2. It's marked on this side with safe, semi, and auto. Now, this is just a reproduction. It's not a full auto firing model, but it has the same markings as the original would have had. Moving forward, one thing I want to not forget is the castle nut here. It's not a castle at all. If you notice that, it's completely smooth on both sides. It just has this small hole where you could hook a wrench into that small hole and tighten it down into place. Let's move forward. Delta ring. Now, this looks very modern. This was adopted on the M16A2. This is the only Vietnam era rifle that had a delta ring on it. All the others before that were smooth and flat. You can see on the E1 here. Handguards are a very hard composite material. They have heat shields. When I say a hard composite material, you can't bend these with your hands. They're very, very stiff. 6 holes across the top. If it doesn't have 6 holes, if it's got 7, it's definitely was made post-Vietnam. All Colt handguards had 6 holes during those years. Let's look at the front sight. This is important. You can see there's no flashing marks from the front sight being forged. Those were ground smooth before it was refinished. Same thing on the front here. No flashing marks. Got your standard M16A1 style round front sight post. Sling swivels held in place with a roll pin, not a rivet. So it's the same as on the E1. No bayonet lug. There's no bayonet lug because we can't fit a bayonet over the moderator. The moderator's too fat. So since we couldn't mount a bayonet on this, and this is for all of the Vietnam era carbines, no bayonets, they removed the bayonet lug. This barrel is a 1 in 12 twist. It's chrome lined. It's pencil profile. It's this small 0.625 diameter or smaller from all the way down the barrel, nice and light. Well, one of the reasons that this has got the longer barrel, and this was the big difference between the E1 and the E2, special teams decided about the same time they started using these carbines, they realized that the XM148 grenade launcher was out. And they said, how cool would it be if we could mount that grenade launcher under our little short CAR-15s? So they sent in the request, and one of the changes that they requested be made to the E1 was that we find a way to put a grenade launcher on this rifle. So what Colt did is they just extended the barrel out, and they cut the same grenade ring into it here so that the grenade launcher could fit an M16A1 or the CAR-15 just the same. If you look at this grenade ring, doesn't it resemble the same cut in an M4 barrel? They do the exact same job. They can hold the same grenade launcher. Lastly, we've got the moderator. This is technically a suppressor. It does lower the sound profile of the CAR-15 down to that to be about the same as a full-size M16. There are baffles inside here. This creates back pressure to help make the cycle of the action more reliable. And reports back from SOG said that they did feel that they were more reliable versus the E1. Flash hider on the end. Sometimes you see field modifications to these carbines. You can see things like full-size stocks being added. One veteran reported that he did this to slow the rate of fire, and he found that it made the rifle, when on full automatic fire, the auto fire was slowed down a little bit, the rate of fire, but it also seemed to be a little more reliable. This is maybe a little more common than people think. Quite a few pictures pop up, and if you look really close, you can see these full-size stocks being used on the CAR-15. One other thing I'll point out, we talked about bayonets not being able to fit. That's why you would have a field knife like this. This is just a K-bar. Something similar would take the place of that bayonet because it couldn't fit on the rifle and it was a better field knife. So Brent taught me into doing a comparison between the E1 and the E2. Since we have examples of both of them here, we can pretty easily do that and talk about the sort of main differences between the two. So he's going to come in with the camera and we're going to start looking at some of the differences between these. We'll start from the buttstock and work forward. So first of all, you notice on the E1, it's just a anodized stock. This anodized would wear off pretty quickly off the aluminum, and then it was shiny. It also was fast to soak up cold or hot temperatures, and it kind of liked to rattle. The vinyl acetate coating was applied on the E2 to deal with those issues. The next big difference that we see is with the lower receiver. This is typically got a full fence M16A1 style lower receiver on the E2. On the E1, it was running the XM170 or the XM16E1 lower receiver, which is the partial fence. Didn't have the protection over the magazine release button that you see on the E2. Now, not all E1s had these. These were transitional, and sometimes you do see the E1 with the full fence, but they started out without it, and it transitioned to this over time. While the E1 still had a Parkerized bolt and carrier, that was new to the E1. We got rid of the hard chrome. The chamber was not chromed, and that caused problems. And that's one of the reasons why on a lot of the E1s, you'll see the old cleaning rod taped to the side so they could knock that stuck casing out of the chamber if they had a failure to extract. On the E2, we have a hard chrome chamber. And this means a lot of difference when it comes to reliability. Delta slip ring on the E1 or on the E2 like we've already mentioned. And on the E1, we've got the old flat slip ring, just like on the full-size M16s. Biggest difference is the E1's barrel chopped off at 10 inches. There's no ability to put a grenade launcher on here. There's nothing to it for it to bolt to up front. And on the XM177E2, we extended that barrel out to 11.5 inches so that we could push the moderator out. We put a collar on it so that the grenade launcher has got something to mount to. Now, those are the biggest differences between the two models. There were transitional models, and as some improvements were rolled out, they were introduced to the carbines as they were made. But as a good general rule, just to get you guys started off in the right direction, if you follow these build rules, you'll end up with a good quality build. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that demonstration of how I would build an XM177E2 clone. I actually didn't build this one. This one was put together by a very good friend of mine, a very trusted friend. I bought it from him, and then I made some more tweaks to it. But all in all, he had done a really good job with the build, particularly with all the barrel work. I was really happy, really fortunate to be able to get it. These things have really went up in price, even in price if you're going to want to build one over the next few months. We've seen them really increase in price and lack of availability over the last couple of years. So if you're interested in one of these, and you have a question, you can always reach out to me. I do follow the comments and try to reply to all of the questions that may be asked. And well, hope you enjoyed the video. I'm going to release more like this in the future, trying to cover all the small arms used during the Vietnam War, or at least all the ones that I have. So if you enjoyed this, subscribe, and you'll get a notification when I release the next one.